Our top story tonight on GRAVITAS, Russia has carried out one of its largest aerial attacks of the war, launching hundreds of drones and missiles across Ukraine overnight. In fact, Ukrainian authorities say at least 4 people have died, dozens more have been injured after waves of strikes targeted major cities, including the capital, Kiev. Russia's defense ministry has said the attack was a response to quote-unquote terrorist actions by Ukraine. Kiev came under intense fire as explosions and gunfire echoed through the night. Air defense systems engaged incoming missiles and drones for several hours, attempting to prevent further damage across the capital. Ukrainian officials said 406 of 452 airborne threats were intercepted, while the Ukrainian Air Force stated that Russia launched 407 drones, nearly 40 cruise missiles and 6 ballistic missiles from multiple directions between midnight and dawn. The attacks hit at least 13 locations across the country. Emergency services in Kiev responded to multiple fires, including one at a 16-story apartment complex.
We were in the underground parking lot when we heard a loud explosion. People ran outside to see what happened. Firefighters and an ambulance arrived. Then the missiles started coming. All the windows in my apartment were blown out. It's horrible.
A large number of Kiev residents could be seen taking shelter amid the missile barrage that lasted nearly 5 hours. Officials said that 3 of the 4 fatalities in Kiev were rescue workers attempting to contain the fires. Kiev's mayor says 22 people were injured. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky urged the US and Europe to ramp up pressure on Russia following the massive strikes.
400 ударних дронів.
During the night, more than 400 strike drones, more than 40 missiles, including ballistic ones, were launched. Please, I ask you to support all the efforts to put just pressure on Russia, to support diplomacy, political and economic pressure. Please urge for new effective sanctions against Russia.
In a post on X, Zelensky, in his words, said that Russia targeted almost all of Ukraine. The map on your screen showing where all Russia struck Ukraine. As Zelensky said, practically all of Ukraine. Russian strikes also hit cities that are typically less affected by the conflict. In Ternopil, located far from the front lines in western Ukraine, at least 10 people were injured, including 5 emergency workers. In Lutsk, a high-rise apartment building and several other locations sustained damage, leaving at least 15 people injured. Videos posted on social media showing the exact moment Russian missiles struck the city. The missile barrage following a series of recent Ukrainian operations that struck deep inside Russian territory. In just the past 7 days, Ukrainian drones have struck key Russian strategic bomber bases. Ukraine's security service also carried out an underwater explosion on a key bridge. While there have been attacks on multiple Russian railway lines, derailing trains that have led to fatalities and severe injuries. Earlier this week itself, following a conversation with the Russian president, US President Donald Trump had warned that Russia would respond to such strikes. Besides the attacks on Friday, Putin has been executing calibrated attacks across Ukraine this week. Russia launched high explosive aerial bombs at the southern Ukrainian city of Kherson on Thursday, while on Wednesday night, a Russian attack on the city of Pryluki in Ukraine's northeastern region killed at least 5 people. Russia has significantly escalated its use of drones in recent months, reportedly launching more than 1,000 per week. Just last week, nearly 500 drones were launched in one night alone. Meanwhile, Ukraine's military also continues to carry out attacks on Russian military infrastructure. Drones targeted the airbase in Saratov region, triggering a large fire at an oil depot. Another explosion occurred at an airfield in Russia's Bryansk region, where local officials said 46 drones attempted to strike the area. Ukraine's general staff also said it struck Russian airfields in Ryazan region, in addition to fuel reservoirs, after one of the heaviest nights of aerial conflict in recent months. It's clear at this point that there is no let-up in the hostilities. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi says he will attend the Group of 7 Leaders Summit in Canada after receiving an invitation from the new Canadian Prime Minister. Spoke to the Indian Prime Minister just a short while back, in fact. The 2025 G7 Leaders Summit will be held in Alberta from June 15 to 17. Prime Minister Modi said in a post on X, glad to receive a call from Prime Minister Carney, thanked him for the invitation to the G7 summit later this month. Look forward to our meeting at the summit. India is not a member of the G7, which is a grouping of 7 of the world's richest countries. It comprises of the US, UK, Germany, France, Italy, Canada and Japan. India, though, has been a regular attendee at the crucial meeting. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has regularly attended the G7 meetings in the past. Also, it's noteworthy that India has overtaken Japan to become the 4th largest economy. For more on this, our Assistant Editor for Foreign Affairs getting us this report. Take a look.
The Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been invited for the G7 summit that will take place later this month in Canada. The invite was extended by the Canadian Prime Minister in a telephonic conversation to the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and we know that India has been regularly invited at the G7 summits since 2019, but this time there were questions given the fact that there was no official information coming from the host Canada. We know that India-Canada relationship under the previous Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau went for a free fall. But the focus of the current Canadian Prime Minister is to improve the relationship. And we know that the Indian Prime Minister will be traveling to Canada, where he will be having a meeting with the Canadian Prime Minister, but an occasion to have conversations with other leaders. In fact, the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the US President Donald Trump will be face to face for the first time since Operation Sindhur, India's strikes on terror camps in Pakistan in the month of May. We know that Donald Trump has been claiming that he was responsible for the ceasefire understanding, something that India has dismissed, saying that it is something that was because of the bilateral conversation, the Pakistani side reaching out to the Indian side, calling for the ceasefire understanding. Sudhan Sibal for WION.
Religious freedom in Pakistan, especially for the Ahmadiyya community, continues to be a matter of grave concern. The Lahore High Court Bar Association has asked the Punjab Police Chief to block members of the Ahmadiyya community from performing Islamic rituals during Eid al-Adha. During the festival, local administrations have reportedly forced Ahmadiyyas to sign legal documents promising not to pray or offer animal sacrifices. The penalty for breaking the promise? Fines of up to $1,800 or worse, legal cases. And what's behind all of this? What's the crime of the Ahmadiyyas? Nothing except identifying as Muslims in a country that criminalizes their very identity. The Lahore Bar Association claims Ahmadiyyas are illegally presenting themselves as Muslims and demands legal action if they take part in the Eid rituals. But this has got nothing to do with protecting Islam. It's a clear case of controlling who has the right to practice their faiths. According to local media reports, at least 3 have been murdered in Pakistan since April. But instead of offering protection, Pakistan appears to be encouraging more threats and violence through official orders. Amnesty International has condemned these actions against the community. After reviewing the orders from Lahore, Karachi, Rawalpindi, Sialkot, Amnesty says Pakistan is not just looking away, rather it is complicit. Authorities are detaining these people simply for wanting to pray. And who exactly are the Ahmadiyas? They follow the 5 pillars of Islam. They believe in Prophet Muhammad and revere Mirza Ghulam Ahmad as a promised reformer. But because their interpretation does not match Pakistan's approved version, they are being targeted and punished. And this is religious discrimination. And Pakistan cannot hide behind penal codes to justify it, because religious freedom is not a privilege, it's a basic right. There is a fresh wave of anxiety in Pakistan. It's over India's nuclear capabilities, more specifically, India's supersonic cruise missile BrahMos. Weeks after India's precision strikes in response to the Pahalgam terror attack, Pakistan is still rattled. And a headline today shows just how deep that nervousness actually runs. In an interview with Bloomberg News, Pakistan's former foreign minister and a coalition leader in the ruling government, Bilawal Bhutto Zardari said, I'm quoting, India's use of a nuclear-capable missile leaves just 30 seconds to decide. He fears that in a future clash, both sides could escalate too fast for even global leaders to intervene. But here are the facts. India has not declared BrahMos as nuclear armed. Moreover, India has a no first use nuclear policy. Pakistan, on the other hand, does not have a no first use nuclear policy. And in recent days, Pakistan's constant nuclear saber rattling was exposed by India's Chief of Defence Staff that the conflict in May never came close to nuclear war. But what did happen was that post the escalation in May, India issued a clear warning to Pakistan. Prime Minister Modi redefined India's policy against terrorism to say that any act of terror against India will be considered an act of war. Now, Pakistan claims this is unfair. In the same interview, Bilawal said that India launches full-blown war without proof. But the truth is well documented. And here's a reminder. The Pahalgam terror attack was claimed by TRF. It's an offshoot of the Pakistan-based UN-designated terror group, Lashkar-e-Toiba. In fact, the TRF bragged about it until its masters in Pakistan, sensing trouble, denied proof and made them retract. India has provided proof multiple times, every time. But Islamabad keeps denying and deflecting and trying to play victim. In fact, Zardari, just days ago, was fact-checked live at the UN press briefing for making false claims about Indian Muslims. And this is the man Islamabad is sending to talk peace? Moreover, India's stance on talks with Pakistan remains clear and unchanged. Terror and talks cannot go together. And so, while Pakistan rants about war in anticipation, Prime Minister Modi was in Jammu and Kashmir today, inaugurating the world's highest railway arch bridge over the Chenab River, a bridge that is taller than the Eiffel Tower. He also flagged off Vande Bharat trains, launched rupees 46,000 crore worth of projects, and said, quote, any obstacle to Jammu and Kashmir's development will face me first, quote unquote. And this is what further rattles Pakistan. Not missiles, but the true progress and development in Jammu and Kashmir. The answer that Pakistan will have to provide is on the abject poverty spread across Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. As far as escalation goes, who really started it? After the Pahalgam terror attack, India's response was calibrated, professional, precise attacks on terror infrastructure in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. But Pakistan responded with drone attacks, triggering sirens and blackouts in parts of India. Of course, India's air defense acted swiftly in downing them. But why did Pakistan panic? It's because Pakistan is economically cornered, diplomatically isolated, and this fretting is the result of the deep strikes and invincibility that the Indian hardware demonstrated. And Pakistan's playbook is old. Harbor terrorists, then deny links to attacks on India, raise Kashmir, raise the nuclear bogey, play victim, and then talk about peace. And of course, ask for third-party mediation, be it Trump or Saudi Arabia. But India is firm, no mediation, no compromise anymore on terror and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. As the Indian External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, told his German counterpart on May 23rd, quoting, India will deal with Pakistan purely bilaterally. There should be no confusion in any quarter in that regard, quote unquote. Meanwhile, there are several questions that Pakistan needs to answer first. Questions that even the international community should ask. The most important one being, why doesn't Pakistan commit to a no first use nuclear policy? Pakistan does not have a formal no first use policy for nuclear weapons. And until it does, these nuclear alarm bells sound more like diversions than real danger, because the real threat is Pakistan's refusal to act against terror and its refusal to commit to a no first use policy for nuclear weapons. The US Justice Department has convicted a Pakistani national who played a central role, reportedly, in an illegal missile smuggling operation tied to Iran and the Houthis. In fact, he captained a small vessel intercepted by a US Navy vessel near Somalia in January 2024. The US Navy SEALs and Coast Guard personnel boarded the boat and uncovered components for ballistic missiles, anti-ship cruise systems and a warhead, equipment consistent with weapons the Houthis have used to strike commercial and military ships in the Red Sea. He, along with 3 other men, were taken into US custody. Prosecutors accused him of conspiring with 2 Iranian nationals linked to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. The group allegedly were about to transfer the missile parts to another ship for final delivery to Houthi commanders in Yemen. And when they were intercepted, a US Navy SEALs attempted to board the smuggler's vessel. One operator fell into the sea, possibly due to a wave or a misstep. A second SEAL immediately followed to rescue his colleague, but neither returned. The US Navy later declared both men deceased, and their bodies remain unrecovered. The court has now convicted the man for several crimes that have a maximum penalty of 20 years in prison, with the final sentencing to be announced in September.